Welcome in, Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are tuning in. And we did try to do a live Facebook feed, but I'm not sure if it's going to work today. So for those that we had posted in advance that we were going to be live on Facebook, but sometimes these technical things just don't work. So we may not be doing that. But again, for those that are tuning in later, listening to the show, this is a podcast. We typically do 2 to 3 days a week. And we continue to provide this information to the consumers for 9 years now, over 1,700 shows, almost 700,000 downloads. We get over 10,000 downloads a month. I want to take the time to continue to thank the consumers and really the people of the industry that follow the show and give us feedback and comments. We appreciate it greatly. And we'll continue to try to live up to those expectations. The focus is education and information. We also provide a lot of community events, a lot of communities issues. We do some things that are outside the box. We like to think of ourselves as really a community show in many different ways. I mean, real estate related is community, whether you live whatever cities and states and communities you live in. So we continue to move that information to the consumers as well. I want to welcome in my guest today, Johnny Khamis, a council member for San Jose. Johnny, good to have you.
Glad to be here, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. I think we had you on a couple of months ago. You were kind enough to, at the time, Johnny, we talked a little bit about, if I'm not mistaken, we discussed, you helped us kind of take us through the process of, there was an additional, I think it was a property tax assessment was taking place. What, maybe quickly you could kind of give us an update on that before we jump into COVID-19 and how it's affecting San Jose.
Yeah, that was Measure E, and it passed. It passed by a slim margin, actually, but it did pass. It will take effect on July 1st, and it will be a transfer tax based on the sales price of the property being sold. Any property above $2 million will basically have an increase of actually be about triple what they pay if you're $1,999,099, you will not have to pay that extra amount. So that will take place on July 1st. Any transactions after July 1st.
Okay, very good. Well, let's jump in and talk a little bit about, first of all, I guess first and foremost, I want to ask you, your family, loved ones, everybody doing okay? You guys staying healthy and well?
Well, I've been sneezing a lot today, but it has nothing to do with COVID. I think
allergies, maybe.
A lot of allergies, a lot of pollen in the air. But yeah, no, we're all good. Thank goodness.
Good to hear. So I know that this week was kind of a big week, so the timing's good. A lot of cities throughout the United States have been kind of opening, or maybe there's a phase-in process going on, Johnny. Maybe if you could take us through to begin with and tell us a little bit about San Jose's phase-in this week. And then we could go into more details about how it's affecting business and revenue and some other issues.
Well, a lot of people think that the San Jose makes the rules, but it does not actually. Santa Clara County's health department does. But I had been advocating for outdoor businesses such as construction, lawn care, pool maintenance, what have you. I think many of these types of industries can be done with a large degree of safety, and I've been advocating for that for a couple of weeks now. And that is the kind of industry that is now allowed to operate as of a couple of days ago. So all kinds of construction, whether it's an ADU or you're building the new Adobe Tower downtown, that's, with safety measures, you can do that now. Nurseries, so nurseries that are, that have plants that were closed and now that they are open. And and also golf courses, believe it or not, are now available and open for golfers. They can only play one at a time, or if they could prove that they're with their significant other, the person that they live with, that is possible. But so there are things more things being discussed to be open. I hope, and by Friday we'll have some new information, and we're looking at our retail shops and how to safely operate those. We're getting guidance from our county as well. So, people looking, they're probably stayed in their same clothes for a long time, getting tired of them. They want to shop for some new ones, So you know, a lot of these things are very important to people. You know, one thing I get a lot of is I want to get a haircut. It doesn't affect me much, but you know, you got a beautiful head of hair, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's trying, but although I keep things in perspective, you know, if that's excuse me, if that's the worst thing I got to do is a few months without a haircut, I could be, I'll survive.
Yeah, well, my wife doesn't like to have that much gray showing, so
yeah, well, it is tough for some people for sure. I know.
yeah,
So
but you know, those are not open, and so we're you know, we're wondering how businesses can conduct businesses in this COVID environment and have their customers and themselves in relative safety, and so we're looking for guidance on how that can be conducted.
Okay, I know there's kind of a rollout in phases, Johnny. What is could you share with us maybe your philosophy or vision, or I guess, you know, thoughts on this? There's obviously it's become this kind of political tug of war in terms of, you know, when to open, when not to open, who should open, who shouldn't open, and then the cause versus the cure and all those types of things. Where do you land when it comes to, I mean, it's such a sensitive issue because not a single person, us, no one here, you know, would want to really, in relationship to anything, see anyone lose their life or get terribly ill or succumb to this terrible the virus. But at the same time, there is an unbelievable cost not only in lives but in money and health and human services when it comes to delaying kind of an opening, right?
Well, you know, being unemployed creates its own stresses,
Right.
and quite frankly, you know, people commit suicide. Some people, there's abuses that happen in the houses, you know, domestic abuse. So we're really concerned about the rise in domestic abuse, and a lot of this stuff happens to be because, you know, the person who's the breadwinner is not bringing home the bread, and so they're having to rely on unemployment, and sometimes it doesn't
Right.
cover the bills. And if they get approved, and there's you know, so the one thing that I'd like, my philosophy is, let's get everybody that can work safely back to work,
Yeah.
and that way government will have to you know, cover a lot less unemployment
Right.
you know, claims and what have you, and you'll actually get this economy starting to roll again, you know. So I don't want people to act unsafely. You know, we all have to take care of one another, and I personally, when I'm out in public, I wear a mask just because I'm trying to be courteous to others.
Right.
As I said, I've been sneezing today, and you know, I don't want to, I don't want to freak people out.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, you know, government is not bringing in money because
Right.
government is actually dependent on tax dollars coming in from businesses,
Right.
such as restaurants, such as, believe it or not, the casinos bring in a lot of business that people don't know. San Jose has 2 casinos that bring in over
right.
10 million a piece in revenues that are closed. A lot of the retail, you know, our car sales are way down. We get a lot of revenue from the airport in taxes. We're not getting any of that. So, you know, we're a little worried about how we're going to pay for things like, you know, police officers and libraries and parks too.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious cycle. Unless we get people back to work safely, we're going to have a bigger and bigger problem.
Yeah. It's probably more complicated than this simple question, Johnny, but on a situation like this, you know, unfortunately, I should say California, I know other than the occasional earthquake, we don't deal with a lot of the other stuff you know, different sides of the country does with hurricanes and typhoons and these types of things. But what in this situation, when you have a shortfall in the city and county, local, you know, agencies like this, is that really, do you partner with the government to get those funds to replace, or is that the burden going to fall on tax holders, or how does that work?
Well, you know, the first thing I could tell you is that we have to balance our budget each year. It's not like the federal government where they can print their own money.
Right.
We don't have that luxury. And I can tell you that all our budgets are estimates. You know, it's all an estimate of how much money is coming in. And I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, we had to close a $45 million budget deficit for this fiscal year, which ends at the end of June. And 2 months, a month before the coronavirus in January, we voted on ways to spend an extra $25 million in surplus. So we went from having $25 million in unexpected revenues extra to $45 million in less than expected revenues, a $70 million swing in a month and a half time. It was dramatic. And so what we've done so far is a hiring freeze. We are no longer hiring for any positions. We are allowing people who are retiring to retire without replacing them. So that's how we're cutting our budget now. And I hope we don't have to do much more than this, but time will tell. I think we're going to have to.
Yeah. Well, I think the good news from a health perspective, California in general seemed to do a pretty good job at, kind of button up the hatches and doing what was right and sheltering in place. And I think we were ahead of the game, thank goodness, when it came to that early on. And now again, I think it's just, you're seeing it all over the place, the frustration. Has there been many protests or a lot of this stuff kind of bubbling over in San Jose? I know we're seeing a lot in Southern California, but have you seen much or have you experienced much here in San Jose?
No, I have to be honest. There's not a whole lot of protests. I do get a lot of emails, a lot of public comments. Why aren't you opening up Bass Pro Shops? Why don't you allow my hair salon to open up? I've actually got the most is hair salons.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You think it's not a big issue, but it is.
That's amazing.
I have had restaurants saying, I don't care what you say, I'm going to open, and take the risk of being fined. And so that's the kind of protest, if you will, that I get. This business is saying that I don't care what you say, I'm going to open because I can't afford to stay closed.
Right.
So, that to me is not necessarily a protest, but it is in their own way.
Yeah. So this week we had real estate changed to a certain extent. I mean, I'm involved with that on a regular basis with real estate and finance. I know real estate now just went to change the guidelines where now they could do private showings of real estate before it had to be a vacant home. So that's going to open up some opportunities, I hope, for home buyers and sellers. And then you had, as you mentioned, Johnny's golf courses and a few other things open to a certain extent within, and obviously with some guidelines and parameters in place. What is next? I know most people go to Santa Clara County website and kind of look into that, but the next phase, what does that look like for San Jose maybe in the next couple of weeks or as we, finish out May?
We're looking at ways to allow retail to open. So I'd like to see, if we can make Target available for shoppers, I don't see why we can't make Macy's available for shoppers.
Good point.
So I'm sure it can be done safely. What I'd like to see is everybody wear a mask. We don't have a moratorium. We don't have a requirement for masks, but we should. That way, people are at least not breathing in bacteria. But that's what I would like to see. Some of the retail operations come back. I'd love to see some of our sporting goods stores. I see a lot of people fishing at Lake Almaden, and I'm sure they're running out of bait or tackle or whatever it is. And that's what I think should be the next step. Let's look at retail. Let's look at how hair salons can go back to work, or barbershops safely. Again, we have to look for ways to guidance on how to do that safely, and that's what we're expecting to hear, I hope, by the end of the week.
Okay. Now, is it one of the other things I'm seeing which is a great idea, I think personally, but I know that, everybody, obviously there's a wide spectrum of what their beliefs and philosophies are, but, when you're going into a retail or a business or a restaurant or wherever it is, to quickly take someone's temperature and use that as another gauge or frame of mind, is that enter into the realm of of personal privacy, or is that something that most people accept as part of this process, you think?
Well, if you want to get into a place, a business owner has a right to tell people, I don't want you in here, and they have to have a good reason.
Right.
And if you're sick, why, he's protecting his other clientele.
Right.
He or she's protecting his other clientele. So I don't think there's any legal problems with that. And I can tell you that we already do that at City Hall. City Hall is closed to outside visitors. But when I personally go into City Hall to work from my office, they take my temperature as soon as I enter the parking lot. So they don't even allow me anywhere near the front door before taking my temperature.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be more prevalent. I'm sure they're going to see these things at the airports quite a bit. That's going to happen. We are requiring masks at the airport right now, and so they are checking temperatures. So the whole purpose is not to spread this disease, and I think that's a reasonable measure.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guidelines roll out by, California rolls them out. We abide by them, each city, and so that's what San Jose is doing, I'm guessing, at the same time. And then it's up to, I guess, our law enforcement agencies to try to enforce that if those people step out of the lines. And that's kind of a gray issue, right? I mean,
some of them are gray issues, and I hear from our police officers, like, at the parks, they don't want people to gather around, but what if, they don't want people within 6 feet of each other, but what if they're husband and wife, or what if they're two brothers and a sister and a mom and a dad, so what if it's grandma with mom and dad? He basically, if it's a basketball game and you could tell that maybe that shouldn't be going on, that's a little easier. But our police are going to have a tough to enforce some of the distancing rules.
Yeah, I'll bet. So you mentioned going into the office, and how are the city buildings and employees doing in terms of, do you guys went directly to everybody working from their home? Is that changed? Have some people continued to work out of the office? What's that look like for the city group?
Well, most everybody's working from home. The emergency operating staff is working from home, and don't let this background fool you. I'm not at the lake. I'm actually at home. Everybody's doing this Zoom cyber meetings.
That's right.
Our city council meetings. I just finished a city council meeting just 10 minutes before I got onto this call, all via Zoom. And there's good and bad to that. Sometimes the bandwidth is not great at home. I have to share it with my sons, who are both at school at the same time. So it's a new way of doing things, but it is, a lot less traffic, a lot less pollution. Some people are saving hours of time in commuting every day. So it's it has this good and bad. I'm sure that we're going to come out of this learning how to more efficiently do things. And if the one thing that we get out of this is learning how to do Zoom meetings and conducting business on the internet, great. That means less people are on the low road. Pollution is going to get lower, and people will be happier because they don't have to commute for hours every day. Yeah,
that's a good point. It's watching some of the business news this morning and on off the last couple of weeks. You realize that, you and I know, we live here, we work here. Silicon Valley is a very unique place. It's driven by a strong job market in high tech, and what they were kind of talking about is that high tech is probably an area that was least effective by this virus. And what I mean by that is, other than, of course, you have, if you want to compare retail and construction, and we could go on and on, different, high tech was probably the least affected. It wasn't that they weren't, but does that mean, do you think, Johnny, that we should look for a more rapid recovery in the Silicon Valley and San Jose because of that in general? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think, no, it does clearly make sense. However, high tech was making a lot of financial improvements in downtown San Jose that we were looking forward to seeing Google come and you know, other big companies were eyeing San Jose for expansion. That is in question now. And so if everybody's working from home, nobody needs to go into the office. They don't need to build offices. So I'm sure that they're going to have a headquarters, and I'm hoping that these companies will continue to invest in San Jose because it's the right thing to do. But maybe their campus won't be 8 million square feet, and it'll be 4 million square feet. And so, you know, those are the kinds of things that we're discussing, because I'm the head of the Economic Development Committee for the City of San Jose. And so those are the things that we're thinking about when it comes to how the tech sector recovers.
Great. Yeah, we have a couple minutes left, and I'd like to, if you could, I mean, you're in these meetings every day. You guys are living in the middle of decisions being made, and also guidelines and things that are passed down through the state of California and implementation and so on. What you know, you have the platform here. What message would you give to the listening consumers that are listening to the podcast? What message would you have to them in terms of, hey, this is what we're hearing, this is what we're feeling, you know, stick in there, it's going to be okay? Or is there a message of other sorts you'd like to pass on to them that maybe some things that people may not even know? You know, I mean, there's a lot of information flowing at us on the internet and online and TV and radio. I guess just a message from you, since you're living it every day, from the back end of this, what would that be to the consumers?
Well, I can tell you that I've been very proud of the people who in San Jose, especially because they've actually shown sheltering in place can work. We've actually had a decrease in the number of cases, and it's not growing as in it is in other parts of the country. So we're doing the right thing. What we need to do is to continue looking for new ways to do business safely, and I think that we will be back to work. We will be earning money again and not relying on government resources. I have high hopes for this community for a speedy recovery.
Okay. And the last thing is, and I know that there's no easy answer right now, Johnny, but as we kind of look forward ahead, you know, God forbid there's no setbacks in terms of additional, you know, the curve going back in the wrong direction. But let's say it doesn't. When would you suppose the Silicon Valley and kind of San Jose might, and I'm not sure, I won't say getting back to normal 100%, because I'm not sure if that'll take some time at all, but kind of where we're back in full gear and everybody's kind of doing what they want to do without major restrictions. Is that 3, 4, 5, 6 months away, or what's your thought on that?
Well, I can tell you that it's really dependent on a viable vaccine. If we can come up with that, then we can be back to normal much quicker. But vaccines take a long time to get tested. I'm not encouraged. I mean, I'm not sold that we're going to be back to work in a regular way in 6 to 7 months. I'm really not, because I know that these things have a big cycle, and things like hotel stays and concerts, those are going to lag. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of the retail will come back. I'm hoping a little more of the dining will come back, the dining out, that is. You know, the travel might inch back up. I don't think it's going to, you know, rush, you know, but I can imagine that as soon as we come up with some kind of safety measures, people will want to travel somewhere, you know. And so I think that until we come up with a vaccine, that it's not gonna, you know, we're not gonna be out of it. Not business as usual.
On kind of a funny note, which, you know, we all have to inject a little humor in our lives because there's so much stress. You know, people are going through a lot of stress. You're talking about a lot of the, you know, requests and comments you get about the hairdressing salons and those types of places. I mean, if it was me, I'd say get the flights to Hawaii back before you open up the hair salons. I know there would be a revolt against me on that, because I think the majority of hair salons.
Well, we've had that conversation in the family. What's the first place we'd like to do after this thing is over? And everybody's saying Hawaii. So yeah. I get you.
All right. Well, before we wrap things up, if anyone wants to reach out to you, support you, Johnny, what's the best place to do that?
Well, if you can, I'll give you my email address is Johnny .Khamis at sanjoseca.gov. That's my official email address. My phone number is 408-535-4910. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, I'm on it. But those are the mediums that I personally answer. And so, you can reach me any of those things, any of those ways.
Well, we'll reach out maybe in the next couple of months and get you back on. It'd be great. And if there's a message you want to get out to the community, we're happy to help in any way we can. We appreciate, your service. We appreciate everything you're doing for the community and our consumers here.
Thank you. You take care. Thank you for inviting me again.
All right, Johnny, take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I want to thank Johnny Khamis for coming on to the show today, the City Council member for San Jose. For more information, you can always go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Until then, stay healthy and safe. Take care.